Okay. Welcome. I'm your MC this morning. Matt's almost sick, our council president, so keep him in your prayers. He's got a nasty chest cold that he brought out from his grandkids. Yeah. So this is not one of our town hall meetings. We're one of the council's goals is to do these almost every month, and we've got a slate of topics that we want to get to over the course of this year. I don't know. I shouldn't put my arm. I was going to say I don't know if we'll end up doing these through the summer, or if we'll just we'll pick back up again in the fall. But cross that bridge when we get there. This is where we're at today. So today's topic is worship and music, and I've just written on the whiteboard a couple of bullet points that I want to get to over the course of our conversation. And probably the one that I think a lot of us are interested in is this one right here. So we'll kick off with that. But before we get to talk about this, I want to rewind time, literally. Now I want to give a quick history as to worship music at Milwaukie Lutheran in my years here, so that you know why we're at where we're at. And obviously one of the reasons that we're at where we're at is COVID. So that's factored into the conversation as well. But I want to help us understand kind of the bigger picture of how music is involved here. Also, kind of also communicating the guiding, like this is a mistake. So, could be. This is, this is one of my traumas growing up in the 80s and 90s is, every time I was homesick, and growing up in Northeast Michigan, where all we had access to was television, the only thing that was on during the daytime was soap operas and the price was right. So I watched a lot of prices right. Anyhow, so I'm gonna go back and talk about the history of music here. So we're gonna go all the way back to the fall of 2012, which is when I was interviewing with this congregation. I was currently at a congregation in Foley, Indiana, and I came out here and I met with the call team at the time. And one of the big things that we talked about was this worship music. This is a big part of the life of a church. Right? You can argue this is life of the church. So when I met with this team, I had a lot of questions because the church that I was at in Indiana, I talked about before, some of you might remember, but the church that I was at in Indiana didn't look like this. It was a missions congregation, and because of reasons, we had 25 amateur / professional musicians that we worked with. I could get a whole history of how that worked out, but what that meant was worship for us was meeting in a repurposed postal routing station that had been converted into a professional sound stage. It's our room, right? We had wax soundproof padding on all the walls. We had 3 projector screens and we had a stage, right? And so we would have anywhere from 4 to 8 musicians playing. And they were, like I say, almost professional musicians for all kinds of purposes. So that was what music worship looked like to us. Our worship outline followed a similar outline to what we used in that we had gathering word meal setting and followed that same order. But we didn't chant the liturgy. We didn't do a Eucharistic practice. We didn't have a great Thanksgiving following the Eucharistic prayer or following or preceding the Eucharistic prayer and all that stuff. But by and large, it resembles what we do. One of the things that I think would be confusing to people is looking at CDG's worship and ours and having to understand why they were actually doing this thing. So one of the questions that I asked when I came here is, what do you want worship to look like? Because a lot of the times, especially when new pastors coming in, they just have a litany of complaints about the way that things are. We want you to fix all of them, which is terrifying because fixing can be a really dangerous process. So I asked, what do you want worship to look like? And one thing that both the call committee and also, I don't know if you remember, I had a town hall meeting. You all put me out in front of you and grilled me with questions for an hour. It was the most intimidating interview I've ever had. So one thing that came out of the congregation is, well, we currently have 2 services and we want to do 2 types of worship. So at that time, the way that we kind of talk about types of worship, we use the words traditional and which I don't know a whole lot of what things look like before I was here. I have some small insight into it, but it wasn't really that big of a departure from what you were doing at that point in time. But one of the major asks was we want more distinction between these 2 services. So what that meant was for the next 4 years or so, what we put a lot of work into, and Charlene can speak significantly to this, was creating these 2 different worship identities. So 8:30 service at the time, I went whole hog into we're going to chant the liturgy every Sunday. We're going to pick a setting. We're going to do the setting. We're singing music, mostly about the hymnal. And at that time, Owen James, who remember our accompanist at that time, were Owen James and My Story. They're a couple that was splitting a 3/4 time job. It's not 2/3 time job. So we had either Owen or Maya, or both Owen and Maya for both of the 2 services. They did a great job. They were wonderful musicians. And when Owen told me that they were going back to Michigan, I was depressed. By the way, I'm still left with Owen and Maya. They're doing great. They live in Petoskey, which is about 2.5 hours away from where I grew up. So every time I go back to Michigan in August, we always try and get together if possible. So they're wonderful. And Leif is like yay high now. He's going to, I think he did a semester at Berkeley School of Music and was like, no, not for me. So he's doing a professional jazz career, shocking. And now is I think almost out of high school, which I can't deal with that. Yeah. She was so Owen and I worked with us to create these 2 things. We had kind of a praise band. We had maybe 6-ish musicians that would kind of like rotate in and out from our contemporary service. And Owen will pick and wrote music. He did a lot of music writing for that service. And this was hymns and liturgy, right? Which I'll tell you, when I came in 2012, you told me that I was going to end up liking this. Great, because I did rock music for 4 years. And, here I am, setting free. I love you wearing a collar, right? And I'll tell you now, I love this stuff. In fact, this for me is like good worship. It's not that I don't like contemporary, but this is the stuff. I think it's like rough and a setting that's like that. So we did this for about 4 years. We continue to do this. It's just that after 4 years, Owen and I moved back to Michigan and And so we were left with this really frustrating circumstance where we had to figure out how to fill the gaps of people who really could not replace in terms of the skill set that they had, and also the way in which they worked together to do music. Because that was one of the things. I never had to worry about getting fill-in musicians on Sunday because if one was going to be on my cover and vice versa. The rare occasions where they took vacation, they had a friend of theirs that would do the service. So that was a sweet set at the time. Again, one of those words I do this. So what we did is we put together a plan for replacing Owen and Maya. And one of the things that we realized is we would not be able to replace them. I just articulated that. So what we did, we kind of picked apart and said, what are the things that they currently do? And the three things that we identified were they have a choir, and they need a choir. They accompany 8:30 service, they accompany 11:30 service. So 8:30 and 11. So they do two types of music. So the council at that time decided to put together a hiring plan that we're going to essentially create 3 job descriptions based on that. Choir, 8:30, 11. So choir, traditional, contemporary. And when we went out and looked for people, we went out with 3 job descriptions. Now the intent was not necessarily to hire 3 distinct people. If we could find one person that could do all of that, wonderful. But we did end up hiring 3 distinct people. And that essentially brings us somewhat to the present. So, what was that, 2017, 2016, 2017? We hired John Baker as choir director. We hired Mike Horsfall as our accompanist for the traditional 8:30 service. We hired Kit Taylor, our current accompanist, as the accompanist for the 11 a.m. service. And I just want to say for the record that at the time, Kit was toying with the idea of taking the whole gig and turning it down. For reasons, yeah. Very funny why I turned it down. He just happened to learn by having a church in the Pearl District because he wasn't ready to have turned it down. And Kit to this day takes himself about that. So that was those were the people that we hired. And the way that we figured out money for that, and this is getting maybe a little bit into the weeds, we sent it to Owen and Mike's joint salary and divided it by 3. And offered those 3 salaries to choir, etc. We had that for 4 years until 2020, and then COVID. And here was a challenge that we really struggled with, the council at that time really struggled with in 2020 especially, because we didn't know how long it would last. And so some of you might remember these conversations where we wanted to retain our staffing with the intent that when it ended, we go back to this. We go back to an 8:30 service, an 11 o'clock service, choir. Right? Except 2020 turned into 2021, right? And it wasn't until fall of 2021 in which we finally were able to reconvene. And so what we had been doing is effectively paying those 3 musicians continuously in hopes that we would be able to return to this. Now, when we returned to in-person worship in the fall of 2021, you might recall we started out with 1 service in the parking lot, which was an experience. It was a very, very interesting experience. And so we continued with that 1 service for about 6 months. And the big question that's hanging in the heads of at that time was, when do we go back to 8? We are a congregation and worship once, but probably more. What that meant was that the consecutive 11 o'clock service on Sunday we had 20 to 25. Like that. This is anyone we had a pretty solid. We started to go back to 8:30. And so what we had to do was we had to fire did not follow Moore's law. What we did is I had a conversation with Blaine and he said, here's the deal. We're going to on service. Who is this? And I'm here. And that, in the end, I don't know, just kind of it was the reason that it ended up taking the gig. Is that Mike was interested, but Mike only be half the time, which I get too much into the weeds. That would have been extremely frustrating from my perspective of essentially having a different part of the work. It's hard to have that consistency in which development music when you've got essentially half stuff.
Well, and you don't know either or not that person knows knows the liturgy in a way that if you're pulling from
and even now, so for right now we've got we our first economist and quite well, by the way, when we you probably for example, we to or send out same thing, play long, or if you can't sing all those moments where I want to go there. But it was a constant the first Sunday where we had 7, 6, 7 next week. And when pages were not necessarily missing that we were actually sitting there. So we do it from time to time. So we ended up having a conversation. We realized I might be able to be here because it's one of that, though, and this has to do with everything with COVID, is that we wind back 2 years ago. So 2020 is your church who is part-time at churches and part-time getting the rest of your salary. Half of your salary is because of COVID. So half of your income vanishes. And so one of the things that hit any other official entity was covering money. And as churches started coming back online, mainline processing to back in person worship. Big, whole different topic. We had very I mean, very small. Because we were back in person. But that it was coming back online. He was trying to find his name up in this thing. So he took 2 gigs at 2 different churches. One was St. John over on Washington Street, St. Philip area, which is they St. John's and after at St. Philip area. So we started comments. I had to do a lot of service. Specifically, why we are currently doing it. I just make sure that and I just make sure that we're up and that's clear to everybody. Because that in service is not necessary and it's a choice. It's not necessarily because that time is better. Before we start talking about it, I just want to be clear about that, is that if we were to change the service time, there would have to be a conversation with the kid. And I've already been talking with the kid. Most likely, he wouldn't be able to continue in this role. And it's currently, well, it has to do with a lot of things, but it's in order for him to continue to be gainfully employed and be able to pay rent, he has to make decisions that are financial based. He would rather be with Milwaukie Lutheran on a more of a full-time basis, but that's the shapes. This is the way it is. Is that clear to everyone? Okay. All right. So worship time. That is the reason. That is the reason that we are at 11. Okay. And I've had to ask, well, why don't we just go back to 10? That's why we don't go back to 10. It's not as easy as just changing the announcement in the bulletin ahead of time and telling people to show up earlier. That's kind of into this. And so, again, I'm not trying to blackmail someone. I'm just like put in the guilt out there. I should have understand why we're at early. Okay. This is how I've been talking about this. Let's get started. And keep in mind, we would council would love to have your input as this, right? If this is something that we as a congregation want to we do. Sure, we do, okay? And I can't 100% say how that's going to turn out, but making sure that all is as a consequence of the community. But this is absolutely, are kind of part of this, which is I talked about this spring. I don't anticipate which is why I letter in May. But also, here are the other big things. Is time is important, but also one of the big things that we're looking at moving forward has to do with worship in this community. We can essentially start from scratch at the end of COVID. We have things, we have new things. One of the things that we're missing is service. All the things that make it right, that are making up worship. So yeah, you're thinking I don't hate your as he probably I've seen before. I'm going to say how if we decided as a country we went back to the concept which anything possible. But yes, that is his time slot at the local union. Over here is my 20, so let's just attend. Sometimes you have your words to part of our worship life, we have musicians that that is happening. That's not necessarily a conscious choice of the self. Anybody has to do this in a person. That, yes. I want to. Yeah. 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 I'm skeptical. Studies that are done. Yeah, let me put this out here, and this is going to sound like a little. I don't really care. I have zero cares. I don't know what time. I can do it at 4, I can do it after. It does not matter. Obviously, I do it before. I don't make it work. But after, I don't know. So take your pick, right? Um, so pretty, yeah. Yeah. Oh, first of all, you don't have earlier service that we're trying to decide what kind of service. Uh, the only thing I talk about the phone that two services. Here's the thing. Okay. Yeah, yeah, I think that's what we're doing. One our aspiration. Yeah, that one thing I gotta tell you, this is the weirdest. And I think 5 years to be here, I say to people, oh, you must not so. No, I've never heard of it before. They never to church as long as we have. But like, it's literally just. And again, I remember speaking. These were the and again, I worked I worked doing you know, you can get drinking coffee. I talked about this before. I think that's one of those things that people energy. This is not you all know what I'm talking about anyways. Yeah. I bookmarked something here, which is really important. Can I recommend I recommend this is a bigger issue than service times. I just want to be this is on my radar, this is on council radar. Is, um, if the world market, what we would do is we would tear up two factories and put some discussion would house our software and audio of younger versions of audio for parents and their kids. I just wanted to say to you know, like, still quiet, right? And this is, I mean, one reason I bring it up is, you know, when we talk about is, we can create, we can do a better job of facilitating, create opportunities for everything. From I think that we're actually, like, one of the things that was missing, um, that made it easier, right? Lower the, yeah. So I'm not right, right thing down. And I should, I should the process. Today is not a voting day, right? It's not a day to go through the competition process. Theoretically, changing work time wouldn't even necessarily be a congregational decision. It would theoretically be a decision. I suspect that it probably will be a congregational decision. One thing that I always want to avoid though is, approach 50 split on the vote, which breeds this unity among the congregation. So just to be clear with the consequences, the follow-up on this meeting today is this. I am listening to you. We are hearing what you're saying, and this is going to determine how we move forward. So I'm just trying to make it clear. We're not going to it. Yes, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No. Surveys are much easier to do and find. Because both online but then we'll do, after we'll be able to stuff for these digital. Sorry. The first question is, yeah. That really does talk about Sunday schools anymore. So the kids that are capable of walking and talking, like some other things and that has been, it's pretty successful for our regular kids. I think online, uh, um, we've got about 6 kids that are just something. Initially 5 classes, so that's happened, which is the same time play school is absolutely the question. And that would be something that I hear talk about is, kind of line, if you're, get a window to get the kids here at 9:30 and, the hours that are they going to stay behind for the election, maybe with kids in preschool. I don't know. I'm amazing. That's the question I'm curious about. So that's absolutely an option. It's just a level question.
This is kind of a little off topic, but I like I think sometimes we have trouble with communication. And the fact that starting to know about Sunday school, maybe there's a lot of people that don't know about it. And maybe people that would be here if they knew there was a talk about Sunday school. Is there a way to that? Well, can maybe that can put that in the newsletter? Yeah, and to be clear too, the reason that hasn't been necessarily advertised is consistency. Sure. And so it's been kind of an not ad hoc is the word, it's been kind of a, well, that's just here we do it. And so if when we wanted to make that more of an official thing, we would need to find other people that would be willing to do that, then we could advertise it. Because it's kind of the thing, and by the way, this is
communication in the 21st century is if you offer something and you don't have it, it's worse than if you don't offer it and you do have it. Um, we were over at a friend's house last night, and we went to pick up, we had pre-ordered pizza, Scotty's Pizza over on Vision, so we had Scotty's, it's delicious, love it, yes. And you guys were right there, Lab's Vision, yeah. And we had pre-ordered, we got there, and they were like, it's gonna be a while. And I dropped my friend off to pick up pizza, he texted me and said, it's gonna be a while. Oh, okay, find a parking spot. He's like, I'm gonna order a beer. I was like, okay. But we were not the only people, and we were the most calm people, and there was a lot of upset people who were told that the pizza was gonna be ready at 7:10, and it wasn't gonna be ready until 7:50, right? So if you tell somebody, follow through on it, you're better off not telling them. Sorry, I'm writing down things here that, I'm gonna remember and to keep track of. Hands talk, I'm gonna brain. Who else? Paula, do you have anything up? As I catch you as a point.
Oh, I was just gonna say, your idea kind of boost for the kids. I kind of like having the block banging and the kids swinging. I think it really adds to the community.
Oh, and oh yeah, let me clarify there too. That's not coming out of an anxiety around race from anybody else. And I'll tell you, from my perspective, as somebody who is a people pleaser and is really uncomfortable with other people being uncomfortable, if I don't have children, if I did and they were making noise, I would be jittery. Sorry, don't make If you're comfortable with that, then great. But providing a quiet room is for the benefit of the parent, not for the benefit of the community. I want to make sure that's. And it could also be, again, I do need grandparents for mothers that want to breastfeed. We could probably make arrangements for that as well. That was something that they want. Go ahead.
It sounds like a lot of people are concerned about losing kids.
Yeah.
But he also does, you talk about communication, he
Yeah.
also does electronic communication.
Those are not tied together. Yeah. Those are not tied together. And I'm gonna speak very briefly for Ken, and I just want to do a asterisk. Not asterisk. Yeah, I know, that's what I did. I with the caveat that this is coming out of past conversations that might not fully reflect where he's currently at, but in the past conversations, that was his main question for me was, are those two things tied together? The answer to that is no. In fact, if things worked out that he was no longer able to do the service, he would continue to be a communication person. Should he desire to do so, which he does.
My point was just having something earlier.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I'm picking up what you're laying down. Yeah, in terms of, doing it earlier. Well, I'll tell you what popped in my brain too is, and again, it's a two surface question is, what would it look like to create like 8:30 or 9 a.m. family? That's a big ball to build, but it's worth considering.
It's hard to think of not having kids,
Yeah.
but then if you go back in the years, some of us who've been here for 30, 40 years, I can't tell you how many meals and drive-throughs we've had in that time, and how bad we felt about losing Mary Ann Lewis, or anybody along the way. It's Cheryl Bruce, it's hard to lose them, but we seem to move on.
Yeah, and again, I hope I was clear with that at the beginning. I'm not trying to hold anybody over a barrel here. Neither of us hit to be clear. I just want to make sure that everybody understood that 11 o'clock service is not necessarily a choice because of that time period. That's why, and I just want to make sure that we're aware of what was happening. It's not in any way saying, we can't go that road.
Saturday evening, an option, there must be young families in the pastor who go Saturday evening.
Do you guys want to go on Saturday evening? And here's the and can I speak for Brian? I don't know the words here. I apologize. This is a statistical problem. Is that Brian Kenna, and they happen to. There's a Venn diagram here of this is them, and they happen to be young, and they happen to have kids, right? Except there's a lot of people that are young and have kids that are Brian Kenna. So in terms of what a Saturday night service work, it's not going to work for Brian Kenna. It might work for other people. And it's not a bad idea, right? I mean, for people who work on Sunday. I work on Sunday.
option if y'all want to have 2 services. Because if you have
Yeah.
Saturday, or you have Sunday, that's what.
Well, and I'll tell you too, I'm again reminding 2 years, that this was something that Kit and I actually bounced around a lot, was we're down to 1 service, should we try something, at a different service time? Here's the problem with it is, well, here's why we get into it in the long run. Critical mass. It's just, you can't just, it's not field trips, right? You can't just start a worship service, list it on your website, and get 5 people to show up and expect it's gonna take. And this is the really tough part. This is why returning to an 8:30, 11 o'clock worship time is tough, really tough right now because of our numbers, but would be unfeasible. Simply because we have a history of it, right? That rhythm exists within our bodies here, right? An 8:30 worship time would be great for people with young kids. 11 o'clock time, great for everybody else who can do a little bit in between. That was our rhythm for so long, and really the single roadblock that's preventing us is just we don't have critical mass of people. And I'll tell you, God, the number of freaking conferences that I sat in talking about this kind of stuff. If you've got 2 services, never go to 1 because you'll lose members. If you've got 1 service, never go to 2 because you'll lose members. It's this catch-22, and it's all BS. The reality is it's all how you do it, right? And it's the thought and intentionality that goes into it, and the communication that goes into it. You can do whatever you want, right? But I don't know what it is. We got 10 minutes yet, so continue to pop up stuff. I just want to. Yes. Oh, I need to talk about that.
I think one of the things that, well, I've got 2 points. One, if Kit isn't here, there's a sense that, oh, here we go, we gotta go through the whole hiring process again. And good church musicians that understand the liturgy, that know how to get people to sing, and know how to move us along are few and far between.
Yeah, I want to be pretty transparent about that. And this is especially because I have, so a lot of people lost their musicians during COVID, and I've watched a lot of our, I got a copy right now. Neighboring congregations going through this right now this would be the reality, is that if you went to something new, we would probably be patchworking it for at least a year, meaning that the first thing I would do is I would tell Kit the Sundays that you are free at 10 a.m. I'm going to book you for those Sundays. I would reach back out to my course hall and I would talk to Cindy Mayer, and we would patchwork it for at least a year, probably, and maybe longer, because it will take us that long to find somebody. Church musicians are few and far between in 2024. It's just not a skill set that people train much anymore, and the ones that we're doing it aren't doing it anymore because COVID. A lot of folks either retired or found other more lucrative lines of work because churches weren't doing it. So, and again, I'm not putting it out there saying as a no, just want to make sure that everybody understands. That would be transparent. But that would be our goal, right? This is the thing. And that's the thing that I need to speak up. From my perspective, and this would be my testimony as to what a good church musician looks like. This is why Kit's a good church musician. I can walk in on a Sunday morning and I know that whatever we're doing, he's going to be able to do it, right? I know that he's prepped. I know that whatever hymns we're doing, whatever happens, right? We have to call him audible. If I forget my cue of the liturgy, he's right there with me. Additionally, he's a great accompanist. He makes you sing. He doesn't just play, right? And I did that was Cindy was there on that Sunday. And additionally, Kit's a very musical person. His music talents lie outside the boundaries of church music. He's a pop musician. He's a jazz musician. In addition to being a great church musician, and that is something that that doesn't exist very often. That's just again. So when we talk about, in theoretical, we go to one time, doesn't work out for kids. Those are the things that we're looking for, right? Those are the things that we're going to want to be able to fill in, and it probably take a while. Just that. Morning.
You have a lot of gray hair people in the church.
Myself.
Okay. Okay. Is changing that going to be difficult for them to come
not a barrier, I didn't cut you off, Maureen.
And that's just one of
Yeah.
the crazy things, because I think about, you know, sometimes it has to be picked up, and who's bringing them,
Yeah, and
that's another thing, anyway, it's just,
and this, yeah, and that,
it's great for the kids.
and this is really just about how we think about things, and it's the same thing with worship time, is there's no hard no's, there's just the challenges that are associated with them. And so if we were to change service times, we need to do a lot of communication, right? And we would not do it 2 weeks away. We would do it probably months ago. So like, and again, just for purpose of hypothetical, let's say we go today, we're changing at 10 o'clock, kids says you can't do service. I would not expect that would take effect until July or August 1, because we would have much time to get things in place, give kids enough offboarding to make, figure out what he's going to do, from a responsible standpoint. But you're right. How many of you, get rides here on Sunday morning? Your ride has figured this into their schedule, like dropping off 11, picking you up at 12:15, depending on how long a sermon runs and how they start service. Communication. We would tell you and then tell you again, and then tell you 3 more times in 5 different ways that it would happen. And we will still have people that will show up at 11 wondering why service is already done. just awkward. The one thing I really do want to avoid, and nobody talked about this, but I think this needs to be communicated. I never ever want to go back to alternating service times. Ever. I don't want to be switching between 10 and 11 on second, third Sunday, and the month before Sunday morning. Absolutely not. The number of complaints that I had from you all, it was, I have a tough time remembering when it is. So that's my only hard thing. Let me repeat back what we heard. I'm getting the sense that we absolutely need to solicit feedback from our community as regarding the survey time, a survey regarding worship time. And I'm not going to council right now, I'm going to speak on my part. What this will look like is that we're going to get back to the statistical data, which is then going to include the council in as to how we move forward. Okay, I'm guessing, and again, I hesitate to predict the future. I'm guessing that what will happen then is that council will initiate a conversation with the kid. Depending on the outcome of the survey, council will initiate a conversation with the kid talking about what he wants to do, etc. Then, after we figure that out, we'll make a decision. And again, I don't know if it'll be a council decision or it'll be a congregational decision. It really, I think, depends on the survey. So that's one thing. This is our primary task. I think we've got what we need to go forward. Here are the things that I heard from the community. And when I say we, I mean we, all of us. It's not just me, it's not just the council. It's especially not your volunteer office admins, by the way. And I'm, again, looking at my back, they have enough to do that they're not getting paid for. So we have a desire to do socialization on Sunday morning. We need to put everything into that. And just again, I'm going to be thinking more about what this would look like. I think it means creating some intentionality around gathering before or after worship. It's really hard for me to commit to anything in terms of timeline until we get this sorted out. But things that have popped up. What we did about that after service? Then I would think nobody heard about that because nobody's going to stick around for lunch. But either before or after service, we need to be more intentional about gathering, having food, communicating that people are gathering. We don't currently do that, right? I say, the Lord, I say, don't please serve the Lord yourself. Say, thanks be to God, and we jet out the back door. Nobody ever says, stick around for coffee, cookies, and that part of it. So,
I think, sharing Easter.
if we do it at the end.
Well, no, we actually have socialization, because then we don't have senior people that we want to say good morning to. I read that sarcasm right there.
Well, hey, this is not bad feedback either. We got 2 minutes. This is not bad feedback either. We've been doing share the piece for doing it simply because that's the way that I did it when I came here in 2012. We can do it at the end of the service. That's the thing that I've done in other congregations. We could also start announcements at 10 to 11, and sharing the pieces at 10:58, and the opening hymn, or the order of confession and forgiveness. Remember, baptism starts at 11. Sorry, just walking through the doors. no forgiveness for you. That's something that I want to work towards the other way. And we've also been talking about getting the announcements in a visual media on Sunday morning before the service that I don't actually announce much. I might get 1 or 2 highlights, but somebody asked us, like, why is it that we are done at 12:10 or 12:15? Because we started 11:10, realistically. By the time we get to an announcement and sharing the piece, I watch them every morning, but that memory starts at 11:10 every Sunday. So.
Well, I really like the ELCA book study, and I learned a lot from it. I don't think we can expect people to stay after a service, or it would always have to be.
They would stay after 8:30 or 9 o'clock service, or even maybe a 10 o'clock service, but they won't stay after 1 o'clock service. I'm with you. I agree with you. Yeah, right.
If you like, if you're just a survey, can you do some things like what's missing from church for you in that survey? I know that the primary thing is just worship time, but maybe just a couple of simple like fill in the blank. If something missing from church for you, what can you do to make your church experience?
I already planned on it. In fact, I'm going to ask these same questions actually. Yeah. Last thing, we got to go. The young. What do we do as a community to facilitate people not of our demographic participating in worship service? And right now, this for me includes everybody under the age of 50, because I'm under the age of 50. But realistically speaking, you're how old you are. But, a lot of my friends have kids at the age of 35 instead of 25. We need to be pretty flexible with that demographic, and they're not a monolith culture. Either.
You said that people would ask you, why are we meeting out at 12:10? Here's the old person's view on that, is if you can't get an hour and 10 minutes shot on maybe not, right,
Yeah, and I just want to speak to that too, is, you know what, I know every Sunday the exact time when I get up. I don't know if you ever noticed, but the first thing I do when I finish my sermon is check my watch, and I know on the minute what time we're going to get out of worship based off of when I do my sermon. So right now, if I'm done by 11:38, I know we're going to hit close to noon. If I go to 11:44, we're getting out at 12:15. And it has to be, anyways. So the only reason I say that is like, I'm aware of it, and I really try to stick to that hour, but if it takes 10 minutes, you're taking 10 minutes of my hour. So, don't forget my style, man. No, that's okay. That's okay. But when my sermon goes over, 15 to 20 minutes, that also means I didn't do a good job prepping my sermon. So I'm also just,
No, not necessarily,
not all the time.
because you allow for the congregation to respond to you, but you never know how long that's gonna take.
Oh my God.
That's what you get,
If you all would just shut up. But I just want to make sure that you're all aware of that. You're not the only ones that are keeping an eye on your watches. I am too. Part of that, try to find myself. Thank you so much for being here, folks. This is a great meeting. And again, we're going to have another town hall meeting in May, talking more about music, specifically, especially with regards to the choir and how we want to do that going forward. Expect a survey to come out in the next month-ish. Council's going to meet. We're going to talk about these things. Yeah, that's where we're going next. Thank you.